This is the AHSAA Weekly. This is your inside look at the Alabama High School Athletic Association. I'm John Holder. Welcome into our first show of 2021. Coming up on this week's program, we've got our Central Board Spotlight shining on the principal at Blount High School in Mobile County, Jerome Woods. Also coming up, we will visit with one of the legendary coaches in high school basketball in the state of Alabama, Ronnie Stapler of Westminster Christian High School in Huntsville, who just clinched his 800th career victory. Also, the Alabama Sports Writer of the Year from AL.com. We'll visit with Ben Thomas. Also coming up this week, we're going to have the new Director of Officials for the Alabama High School Athletic Association, Ken Washington, joining us from the Alabama High School Athletic Association offices in Montgomery. And David Holtzford will have basketball highlights from across the state of Alabama. All of this and more on this week's AHSAA Weekly.
Home making you sick? Moisture and unsafe air from your crawl space can infiltrate your home, causing health hazards and high utility bills. Ox Foundation Solutions can remedy any mold or mildew problem in your home. It's time to get strong. How strong? Ox Strong. Get a free estimate from Ox Foundations.
Kicking off this week's edition of the AHSAA Weekly, it is time for our Central Board Spotlight. District 1 Representative Jerome Woods is the principal at M.T. Blount High School in Mobile County.
Jerome Woods grew up in Mobile as the son of a high school football coach, and he did everything he could to do something else. But for the last 22 years, first in Louisiana, where he played college football before returning to his hometown, he's been right where he's supposed to be.
My management style is hands-on. I like to be a part of everything. I like to get my hands involved with everything from academics to athletics within a school building. I think my kids really enjoy that. I'm at most of their athletic events, from basketball to football, obviously, but then I like to go to softball, soccer, and all of those events. Also in the school building, in the classes all day long, seeing as many teachers and students as possible. And trying to ensure that that academic process is going the right way, that there's a safe and orderly environment within the building, and that the building is conducive to learning. I think that's one of the best ways to do it, and that's the way I do it.
Woods has served as the principal at Blount High in 8 Mile, just outside of Mobile, since 2009. He's also been a part of the AHSAA Central Board for the last 5 years.
My experience as an Alabama High School Athletic Association Central Board member has been amazing. I've learned so many things and been involved with so many scenarios that has been super impactful on my life. I think, being a board member of an association that has the opportunity to impact athletics throughout the state, huge. Having the opportunity to sit in on meetings that determine what's going to happen for young people, both male and female, and athletes in the states, a big deal. But understanding that we do it under the guise that the rules are made by our membership schools, that they make the rules, we enforce the rules, and making sure that we keep everything above board. And it's been a great experience.
We are back on the AHSAA Weekly, and we are pleased to be joined by a true legend in high school athletics here in the state of Alabama, the longtime boys basketball coach, legendary basketball coach at several schools in the Tennessee Valley. Currently, right now, he's the head coach at Westminster Christian High School in Huntsville. We're talking about Coach Ronnie Stapler. Coach, good evening. Glad to have you with us this week on the AHSAA Weekly.
Thank you, John. Glad to be with you guys. Appreciate you having me.
Well, we have you on because last week, really a milestone. We have literally only a handful of coaches in the state of Alabama that have won 800 high school basketball games. Your 59-42 win over St. John Paul II Catholic gave you that 800th career win. First, Coach, congratulations on that extreme accomplishment last week.
Well, thank you, John. You know, coaching is about 5% and players 95%. And I've been a blessed man. I've been able to do this, have relatively good health for a long period of time, and been able to coach a bunch of wonderful kids in those 50 years.
You started back in 1974, and you've won state championships in 3 different decades at 2 different schools, including at Westminster. Just talk about the career. Just talk about the going back and looking over 800 games and going all the way back to 1974. What stands out to you, maybe some of the favorite memories over those years?
Well, I guess it's just the memories are, and I've told a lot of people, I've been fortunate enough to coach a bunch of wonderful kids, but I think and the 800 wins is just a testament to what those kids have been able to do and all the many wonderful assistant coaches I've had. I think we counted the other day, my wife and I did, that I've had 10 or 11 or 12 assistants who have helped me build programs that have gone on and been head coaches in boys and girls varsity basketball. And I'm really appreciative of all the things they've done. And then I've had about 20 or 25 other young men who played for me. And I think it's maybe even more than that who've gone on to be coaches. And I'm really proud of that. And then the relationships I've built with other coaches, the friendships I've built through the years with other coaches, those are so meaningful because those are things that last forever. Winning games is, if you get in coaching to win games, you can never win enough. And I've never been one who got into coaching just to win games. It was all about trying to build the friendships and relationships I've had with coaches and all my players.
Coach Stapler, speaking of relationships, you had a chance to coach not only your son, but your grandson. Tell us how special that was to be able to coach both your son and grandson.
Well, it's been awesome. I guess I was the evil villain when I coached my son. My wife, I had to go home to her every night when he played and listen to, she was always critiquing me how I coached him, but she was wonderful through it all. It was such a pleasure to coach my son. I tell people that I got to be around my son 2.5 hours every day of the week, and some fathers don't get to be around their kids 2 hours. I got to be around them 2.5 hours every day, and some fathers don't get to be around their kids 2 hours in a week. And that was special too. But now to see my grandson, who's a very good player, is an 8th grader, and I have a granddaughter that I've spent a lot of time with. She's on the varsity playing at Vestavia as an 8th grader, and I've been able to help her a lot. And then the fun thing for me transitioning through all this is I get to coach my 4th grade grandsons in the AAU in the summertime. So that's been a lot of fun for me. And it's still the same. It's all about teaching the game and building relationships with those kids.
Coach, let's talk about how you got started in all this, going all the way back into the early 70s. What was it about coaching high school basketball that made you say, hey, this is something I want to do for a career. I want to make this my life?
Well, my mom was a single mom when I was 13 years old, and she raised 2 boys by herself after that age. And basically all the people I had were mentors in my life, were youth coaches or high school coaches. And I always felt like I didn't have a great relationship with my dad, and I didn't see him. After I was 18 years old, I never laid sight on him. And it was one of those deals where I always wanted to try to give something back to help young men and young women. And when I went to junior college, I played on 3 really good teams at Butler High School. And when I went to junior college, probably the guy that was the most influential in my life was my junior college coach, Glenn Clem at Walker College. And he was a great man. He spent a lot of time with us outside of basketball, just dealing with life and all the issues you're going to have to deal with as an adult. And that made a huge impression on me. And I'm forever indebted to him. He passed away way too early in his life, but he impacted so many young people's life. And he was the biggest influence it had on me. I used to watch him coach and how he broke the game down for us. It wasn't just about plays. It was about teaching concepts of basketball and how you do this and how you teach different things. And that was, I just sort of fell in love with the game in my junior college years. And I knew then that that's what I wanted to be, a high school coach.
Coach Stapler, I know this is the heat of the season. You're right in the middle of it. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to spend some time with us. Congratulations on 800 career victories. Just best wishes for the rest of the season. Thank you for spending time with us here on the AHSAA Weekly. Thank you, John. I really appreciate all you folks have done for athletics in our state. We're certainly appreciative of all you do. Thank you very much for having me. Kind words. Ronnie Stapler, legendary coach at Westminster Christian High School in Huntsville, our guest this week with us here on the AHSAA Weekly. This is the AHSAA Weekly. We have a real friend of high school athletics in the state of Alabama as our guest at this time. We're talking about Ben Thomas, sports writer for AL.com, joins us this week, and he just won a big award, named the Alabama Sports Writer of the Year by the National Sports Media Association. Ben, first, welcome in. Glad to have you with us on the AHSAA Weekly this week, and congratulations on that big honor as the Alabama Sports Writer of the Year.
Well, thanks, John. I'm glad to be with you guys and appreciate it. It's been overwhelming. You know, I've been doing it a long time, and to have an honor like this voted on by other sports writers is really something. And then just over the last 24 hours, the text and Twitter tweets and messages I've received is just, I've just been blessed to be able to do this for 30 years. John, I knew you and I knew each other when we were just starting out back in the Gaston days. So it's been awesome, and I appreciate everybody.
I can tell you, there is no better friend to high school athletics in the state of Alabama than Ben Thomas. Ben, you're the only full-time sports writer now with AL.com. That means that you cover the entire state of Alabama. You're well-versed. You mentioned starting off in the Gadsden area. You've been in the Mobile area. You've covered all of the state of Alabama. Tell us about just going back and looking over the career, especially covering high school athletics in Alabama. What's that meant to you?
Yeah, first of all, let me mention Dennis Victory, who's my colleague in Birmingham. He's not full-time, but I could not do this without him. What we've done through COVID and everything, and a team of correspondents. But it's meant, I came in Gadsden, Alabama for the Gadsden Times, working for the great Jimmy Smothers, who John, I know, and has passed on now, but he taught me so much. And I started covering high schools, and I went a period of time in my career where I was more of an editor. I didn't really cover a lot in Montgomery. I got to be sports editor in Montgomery, but the way things worked out in Mobile, I came down here as an editor role, and then I guess about 8 years ago we had the big changes where we went to 3 days a week, and a lot of people unfortunately lost their jobs, and they moved me into a high school role, which for me I was thrilled about, John, because I've covered Auburn and Alabama. I've covered. I've been to the Masters, I've been to the World Series, different events that you dream about covering. But through it all, high schools, I've come to realize, I just turned 53, so maybe I'm older than most high school guys, but I've come to realize how rewarding it is to cover high school sports, to have an impact on these student athletes and coaches, and they certainly have had an impact on me. And I just love it. I mean, I feel like God's called me to do this right now in my life. So many people in the journalism field are not working anymore, and he continues to bless me. And I feel like I know why I'm doing it, and hopefully I hope that I do it with honesty and integrity and, those type of attributes along the way.
Big question here. I know one of the great stories that you wrote in 2020 was about that 7A championship game between Auburn and Thompson. That was a great story and a great memorable time, one of the more memorable high school state championship games in the state's history. What are some other maybe memorable moments, a couple of memorable moments in high school athletics in Alabama that stand out to you?
Yeah, I think, just looking back on 2020, John, I mean, down here I'm based out of Daphne, Mobile, Alabama. And, in May, I think it was St. Michael Catholic School, a relatively new school named Phillip Rivers, who is currently an NFL quarterback, their head coach. And that story kind of went nationwide as that happened. And then I guess maybe the most challenging and maybe rewarding thing, covering the impact of COVID-19, from the March shutdown when none of us knew what was going to happen, especially with high school athletics, to unfortunately not being able to complete those spring seasons, to the decision to come back and play on time this fall. And even through the season of trying to reach the Super 7, could we get to the Super 7? Would we have it? And of course we did. And that's kind of been a never ending story. And as we start 2021, still a storyline, John. I hope eventually we get past it. But right now, we're still dealing with that. And of course, I've been in Gadsden, I've been in Montgomery, I've been here in Mobile. I've had the opportunity to cover athletes like Carnell Williams. A year ago, when Freddie Kitchens was named head coach of the Cleveland Browns, and Patrick Nick's son, Bo Nix, won Mr. Football, it was made me feel old, because those were really two of the first guys I covered at Etowah High School in Atala. I think you were there back in the day. So I still joke with those guys about that. But I've been blessed to cover people along the way, and coaches and student athletes have just treated me great. And I feel like they appreciate what we do at AL.com, and I'm happy to provide that.
Well, Ben, we are very blessed to have you in the state of Alabama. Very talented writer, someone who loves high school athletics and loves the young people and the coaches here in the state of Alabama. And I think that passion comes through in his writing and all the great stories that he has written through the years. Congratulations on being named Alabama Sports Writer of the Year. Looking forward to more out of you from AL.com in 2021.
Hey, John, thanks. So thanks for having me.
Ben Thomas from AL.com, our guest here on the AHSAA Weekly.
You asked for it, and we've listened. Tony Sarah Ford's Truck for a Buck program is here. It's a new year, and we're making it easier than ever to get into a new Ford truck. This month, get into a brand new Ford truck for just $1 down. You heard that right. Just $1 down delivers a brand new Ford truck. No bull, just $1. Rangers, F-150s, and F-250s can be yours for as little as $1 down. Save the rest for those holiday bills. It's happening now at Tony Sarah Ford, Highway 280 in Sylacauga.
We are back on the AHSAA Weekly, going to take you now to Montgomery, to the offices of the Alabama High School Athletic Association. Ken Washington joined us from the AHSAA in a new role. Ken, for about a year and a half or so, we've been talking to you as the Assistant Director of Officials for the AHSAA. But as we flip the calendar to 2021, you are now the third ever Director of Officials for the Alabama High School Athletic Association. Congratulations. Welcome into the program this week. Tell us about your new role as Director of Officials for the Alabama High School Athletic Association.
Thank you, John. Man, it's really been a blessing. Honestly, it's always an honor to be able to serve across the state, our member school, and our officials. I'm truly blessed that Coach Savory saw something in me and gave me an opportunity to do something I always wanted to do at the end of my career.
Ken, you've been working alongside Mark Jones, who retired in December as Director of Officials for the Alabama High School Athletic Association. Obviously, some big shoes to fill there with folks like Greg Brewer and Mark Jones through the years. You're only the third Director of Officials in AHSAA history. Just your excitement, I think, about jumping into this role.
Very excited. Man, it's 1,000 things you want to do at one time, and you got to kind of step back and look at things and just handle the things that are in front of you one at a time. When I was officiating, Greg was in place. Greg was always demanding of excellence. Mark came in and took charge of things and elevated us even more, and I'm hoping to do the same thing that those guys did before me.
Ken, you have a great reputation as being not only a great high school basketball official, but also professional and college basketball official. Are you going to be able to continue in that role, or is that now in the past for a while?
Yeah, I had an opportunity to continue. Coach Savarese was always supportive of me officiating collegiate basketball. Once I looked at the whole scope of things, that was one of the things I had to evaluate, and I decided to resign from collegiate basketball. It was heartbreaking, but I serve a bigger purpose that I believe in this role, and so I resigned from basketball to serve our member school and our athlete as best as I could, because I want to do it 100%.
Ken, as we flip that calendar to 2021, we're right in the middle of basketball season. I know your favorite time of the year, but as we look out through the rest of this school year, and of course later on in the season we'll begin a new school year later on in 2021, what are maybe some of the things you're looking forward to, maybe some challenges, some things you're anticipating? What can we look forward to on the officiating end of things from the Alabama High School Athletic Association in 2021?
Well, it's a unique year with us with the COVID-19 pandemic. So coming in this situation and have its own challenges. But we want to give every official an opportunity that has put in tons of work, has sacrificed to be on the court for student athletes so they can have an opportunity to play, but really get them a good evaluation and allow those that are deserving to go further into the playoffs and see them reach their goals of making to the state. And that's the most exciting part for me, is them getting an opportunity to be there and everything going well for them.
The AHSAA has a great program in place that helps to observe and evaluate and groom officials. Tell us about that.
Right now we have our district camps. We're working on summer camps again with the COVID-19 situation. We had to do a lot of virtual things, but we made it work. We had virtual camps throughout the state, and they had we went through the Zoom calls, and we broke off into rooms and had different presenters, and I think it was very valuable information that was given, and it was just part of our education. We hadn't been able to get in front of each other and do more hands-on, but we make the best out of this situation as possible.
As we have talked about in the past before in some of our conversations here on the AHSAA Weekly, there is a need for officials across the state of Alabama, and we want to make sure that folks know about that need and how they possibly can become an official out there. Tell us about that.
All they have to do is send an email to me at kwashington@ahsaa.com and just tell me the sport and what area they're from, and I'll get them connected to the district director in their local area, and we'll get them started. There's a great need for officials. We're down this year, especially with the pandemic, and we have some officials that are around the age of 50 on their way out, and we have to replace those officials. And if we don't, I'm not sure how we'll be looking going into the future without officials. Without officials, we can't play the game.
Absolutely. A very vital part of everything that we do here with the Alabama High School Athletic Association. Ken, we thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule. Congratulations on your promotion to the Director of Officials for the Alabama High School Athletic Association. Looking forward to big things from you and all the officials across the state of Alabama here in 2021.
Thanks again for having me, John. It's always a pleasure on being here. Look forward to seeing and being here with you in the future.
Ken Washington, the new Director of Officials for the Alabama High School Athletic Association, joining us this week here on the AHSAA Weekly. Back in just a moment.
Hot under the collar because your basement is full of water? Ox Foundation Solutions has the expertise and the know-how to repair cracks, wet basements and crawl spaces, and uneven floors in your home. Ox Foundation Solutions will come up with the right fix for you. It's time to get strong. How strong? Ox Strong.
It is that time of the show, the AHSAA Weekly, where we take a look at David Holtzford's highlights. These are highlights from all over the state of Alabama as we transition to basketball, coming from David Holtzford of the Alabama High School Athletic Association. And, of course, we're going to begin on the hardwood during the holiday break. We see G.W. Long High School of Skipperville taking on Houston Academy in a girls basketball game at Dothan in December. The Rebels of Coach Jody Hughes, playing with just 6 girls available due to sickness, scored a state record 22 three-point goals the night before in a 101-23 win over Dale County. We pick up the action here the next night with McKenna Long, who had 9 trays in the record-setting team effort, red hot again, hitting several threes in the 52-34 win over Houston Academy. The Rebels have plenty of firepower with Emmeline Hughes and Lily Grace Payne sinking 7 and 6 trays respectively the night before. The previous AHSAA record for three-pointers in a girls game was 20. That was set by 3 different schools: Cold Springs, Locust Fork, and West Point, as G.W. Long in this game beating Houston Academy out of Dothan at Houston Academy by 22 points, 56-34. Speaking of three-point records, Trinity Presbyterian sophomore guard Emma Kate Smith set the AHSAA girls single-game three-point individual record, sinking 14 at a 79-24 win over Booker T. Washington Magnet in a game at Trinity January the 2nd. She was 14 of 27 from the three-point line, finished with 44 points. Emma Kate making three-pointers from all across the court thanks to some outstanding assists from her teammates. Also made her coach, who is also her dad, Blake Smith, very proud. Her 14 trays broke the AHSAA previous record of 13, which was set by 5 different players: Cold Springs' Cameron Grider, Erica Smith of Bell Green, Jordan Dollar of Russellville, Heather Morris of Vestavia Hills, and Heather Mays of Fife. Now we take you to the Hartselle Tigers. They continued their success on the hardwood last week, thanks in part to one of the AHSAA's most prolific scorers, 6'2" senior guard Brody Peebles, attacking the rim with his jumping ability and making shots from all across the court in an 82-68 win over Decatur. Peebles, who's going to Liberty University, finished with 48 points. Some of his highlights shown here from the win over the Red Raiders, and a 28-point effort in the Tigers' 83-75 setback to Class 7A Austin. And one of the state's top basketball underclassmen is 6'6" forward Barry Dunning of Mobile's McGill-Tulane Catholic. His all-around skills on full display in last week's 84-77 win over Saraland. Wearing number 12 for the Yellow Jackets, Dunning shown here sinking a tray over a Spartans defender, drives the baseline for another basket, and makes an incredible reverse bank here for another bucket as he finished with 32 points in the win. We close this week's highlights with a Where Are They Now clip of Xavier University guard Colby Jones just 10 months ago playing for the Mountain Brook Spartans in the 7A state finals and representing Alabama in the 2020 Alabama-Mississippi Classic. Now a Division I basketball player for the Musketeers of the historic Big East Conference. Just 2 days after losing his grandfather to COVID-19, Colby would play 22 minutes, scored 9 points against Providence University, making the game-winning shot with 1 second remaining, trailing 73-71. Jones took the game-winning three from the top of the three-point arc to give Xavier a 74-73 win. Thanks to Fox Sports for the shot you just saw heard around the world. And we want to thank the AHSAA's David Holtzford for compiling these highlights once again. And now to close our first AHSAA TV Weekly of the 2021 year, we have a tribute to Huffman High School wrestling coach and special education teacher Derek Johnson. Coach Johnson passed away from COVID-19 just 5 days after his 43rd birthday last Sunday. He served the students and community at Birmingham's Huffman High School and the Birmingham City Schools since 2002. The 1996 Woodlawn High School graduate and 2001 University of North Alabama graduate was an outstanding football player in high school and college who touched many lives with his loving attitude and dedication as a teacher and a coach. Our thoughts and prayers go out to his family, the faculty, and students. Coach Derek Johnson had a tremendous positive impact on the lives of the many students he taught, and he will be greatly missed. That's going to do it for this week's AHSAA Weekly. We'll see you back here next week.